Hello, my name is Torimo Jori, and today we're going to be looking at episodes 9, 10, 11, and 12 of Mushoku Tensei, thus dubbed the Hair of Destiny. More than any other chunk before, I was just flabbergasted at this chunk. Well, that is what it is. A video over episodes 5 through 8 got a good bit of traction, which is kind of crazy, considering I rushed the video to meet the deadline I set for myself. Not one of my better works. Anyways, the big gap between videos is because I got tired of editing. If you've ever edited before, you know there can be a lengthy and repetitive process at times. So I've decided to give myself some more time with that, with more flexible deadlines. On another topic, as I share my honest opinions on these episodes, what I think, there's going to be some negatives. Some negatives, you might be thinking after watching the last video, and you'd be right. Generally with media, the negatives stand out more than the positives. And this is amplified if you make review videos, because you're pretty much actively looking for things to criticize and the like. Since making these videos, I've been applying these habits to other anime that I watch, and thus enjoying them less. I watched a couple and found that I enjoyed episodic content much more than serialized shows when I'm in this kind of analysis mode. I enjoyed the Gunsmith Cats OVAs, Little Witch Academia, Calvin and Hobbes, and Yosoba End a lot more because of this. I also watched the Steins Gate series during this time, and while I enjoyed the story and the themes, I couldn't really get into it as much as some of the other ones previously mentioned. Long diatribe aside, thanks for watching this video. On to Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, episodes 9, 10, 11, and 12. Cowabunga, dudes. Spoilers, you gotta watch out for the spoilers in this review, as I'll be first recapping the video, then giving my review on it, then my thoughts on this chunk/series as a whole so far. These reviews are for the subbed anime alone, and I'm not considering any other content. I will be incredibly biased, and will be giving my dumb opinions throughout the video. So, watch out for that. I am not very bright. Anyway, spoiler alert done with, enjoy the rest of the video. Mwah! Episode 9 of Mushoku Tensei, A Chance Encounter. We start off with past Rudeus in a blank void. He sees a figure who calls itself the Man God. Apparently, this Man God has been watching Rudeus' journey. His body here is his mental representation of himself. He brings up another god and says that Rudeus was caught in a mana cataclysm and transported to the Demon Continent. Man God says that he will wake up with a person nearby and to trust that person. Then, he wakes up. He sees Eris unconscious nearby, with no Ghislaine in sight, and a Spurd sitting by the fire. Yeah, that Spurd. Green hair, forehead eye, and everything. Nice. He talks to the Spurd in the demon language, and apparently he made a fire to save the two of them from the cold. Apparently the Spurd's name is Riejerd Sperdia. Go figure. They're in the north of the Demon Continent, and Riejerd promises to escort Rudeus back to the Central Continent to safeguard the Spurd's reputation. Eris wakes up and panics at the sight of the Spurd. She do be shaken. Eris' friends on the other side. They travel across the Demon Continent, which resembles a rocky terrain with barely any life, only shrubs and giant tortoises thriving. They encounter a village of blue-haired goobers who apparently have telepathy. Apparently, this is Roxy's village, and her father is the chieftain. They'll live in big old tortoise shells. Apparently the makers live up to 200 years old, and Roxy is about 44. Apparently Richard can't enter cities, probably due to his Spurd nature. Despite his wanting to reverse the Spurd reputation, he also says he'll kill anyone who gets in their way. He begins to tell the tale of how the demon lord Lapis destroyed the reputation of the Spurd tribe. Apparently Lapis was somewhat of a civil rights leader, fighting for freedom from the oppression for demon kind. However, he gave the Spurd tribe enchanted spears, knowing that spears were the soul of the Spurd tribe, that drove them mad, unable to tell friend from foe. Thus, slaughtering began, and total destruction. His son's spear is his only relic from that past, and as the leader of his tribe, he sees it as his duty to revive their once great name. Rudeus promises to help in that goal. The makers bid the trio farewell, gift him a weapon and some local currency, and the next stage of their adventure begins as the episode ends. Now, onto my thoughts on the matter. Start of the new chunk. This is a pretty decent episode in my opinion. We get to know that the Spurds are basically set up to be the villain, although we don't really get to know why yet. We do get some more info on Lapis though. This is the demon lord we've been hearing about for a while. What we know so far is that he was a demon lord, got sealed away by a group of heroes, was a civil rights leader, and gave the Spurds insanifying spears. Well, here come the assumptions based on 4 pieces of evidence. To me, as of the moment, we know that 400 years ago, demons used to be seen as inferior to mankind and given less rights, which is the reason why Lapis rose to power to fight for rights for all demons. To me, this represents one of 2 things. Either the civil rights movement in America with Malcolm X, or the Haitian Revolution, with the sans la voiture, French. Whether the demons were treated as slaves or second-class citizens, as of now, we do not know. By considering the technology level of this world, the state of feudalism and aristocracy, it was likely a violent revolution with a great deal of conflicts, which also makes sense when you consider the Spurge's role as warriors and reputation as fearsome foes. That begs the question, did Spurge has Laplace's loyalty after the revolution? If Laplace had achieved his goal, why would he give them these cursed spears? Now the timeline on this is a bit hazy. We don't know exactly when Laplace was sealed, but we can assume it was sometime after the end of the revolution 400 years ago. At the moment, I can't really think of any reason to do this, but I'd assume we find out later in the show. Anyways, what else? I think my favorite detail from this episode was from the village of the Migods, where they lived in the big tortoise shells. I really like when little creatures live in the corpses of big creatures, minus bugs. I just think it's neat. Also, the she's actually 1,000 years old strikes again. Just makes sense that other species have different lifespans though, especially since most demons in media are, generally immortal. Can I call you my father-in-law? No. Oh wait, also, we finally get to meet a Spurd. God, it's been so long. I've been harping on this like every episode. We finally get that detail resolved. Yay! I gotta say, I did really like this episode more than the previous ones. It just seems easy to follow and fairly simple, and I think that's fine. Good episode, I liked it. Next! Episode 10 Mushoku Tensei, The Value of Life in the First Job. We start off with Eris fighting off a pack of wild desert wolves covered in blood and guts. She serves voracious. Bugs! Ew! They arrive near the city of Rikorisu, surrounded by jagged peaks of stone. Demons. Demons everywhere. Apparently security is tight because Dead End was spotted nearby. It's Ryujer's nickname. He goes to leap over the cliffs, but Rudius realizes that the whole city will panic. Prepare for the dumbest moment in the entirety of this series. Yeah, recap neutrality's going out the window here. Rudius finds some soft mineral on one of the walls that comes up in a sort of cyan dye. The group walks right past the gate with no questions asked. The city resembles a sort of Pueblo settlement, with some crystalline shapes situated in the middle of the town. Lots of trade and such going on, and Eris gets the classic cat hoodie. Apparently there's an adventurers guild in the city, and Richard still isn't showing his face. Rudius and Eris burst into the adventurers guild with outrageous outfits, bringing in Richard and saying that he is the Dead End. However, no one at the guild believes him, and he's laughed at a bunch. Also, Richard still has his middle eye visible, and he just has cyan hair dye on. Yeah, they named their party Dead End and start at the lowest adventurer rank. They can't take just slaying jobs right away, and BoJack Horseman comes to bully them. Froggy can't handle the pressure. Apparently this has all worked to Rudius' plan to rejuvenate the Spurd name, even though they don't believe Ryujer to be a Spurd. Big, bright crystals. But when rustles Eris' jacket, a button falls off, so Eris breaks all of the woman's ribs, then proceeds to curb stomp the woman to death. Wait, she's not dead yet. Eris is a little psycho, and Rudius heals the woman's wounds, and she's good with them. This woman is a part of another group of 3, and they're apparently gonna be a great party. Rudius meets Man-God again, and criticizes him for not having faith in it. Man-God advises Rudius to take the job to find the lost kitten, and he wakes up again. Eris asks Rudius if they're going to make it home, and Rudius affirms her. The next day, they look for the lost kitten and find an ominous cave. Ooh! There are lots of animals kept captive there, and they find out the kitten is really a panther. A group of assorted demons pop in, and apparently, they're running an illegal animal smuggling ring, where they kidnap animals, then return them for the reward. They're trapped in the mud and cuffed by Rudius' magic quickly. One of the demons kicks Rudius far, and Ryujer immediately eviscerates the demon. Apparently because he hurt a child, and because he was evil. Lawful stupid exists in this world. Rudius asks him not to kill anymore. Rudius offers an ultimatum. Work with him, and he'll spare their lives. Again, Ryujer refuses to compromise, due to the fact that they are villains. His vow to take them home apparently supersedes his vow to destroy villains. Rudius' party will take the other group's higher rank jobs, and the other group will do the lower rank tasks. BoJack comes out to mock the parties, and Rudius ain't having it. Then, the episode ends. Now, onto my thoughts on the matter. Gosh darn, that was a long recap. Well, a lot happened in this episode. I do have to say, I've been enjoying these episodes a lot more than the previous chunk. I do like it when the story is generally focused on adventure and fantasy mainstays than, you know what. I'm gonna rant in a second, but let's focus on the other stuff first. You can guess what it's gonna be by the title of the video, and there's gonna be more of it in the next episode too. So, despite the name Jobless Reincarnation, this is the second job that Rudius gets, also opposed to the name of this episode, The Value of a Life in a First Job. Although first job could be referring to their first job as adventurers, getting the Lost Kitten quest. I like the designs of the demons. It's like mashing a bunch of classic fantasy non-humanoid, even sometimes humanoid creatures into a civilization, together representing different tribes each. Got bee people, bojack people, serpent people galore. I also like the cool design of the city, which is kind of reminiscent of a quarry, with houses built into the walls like the Puebloan settlements, which you can find in Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Utah, Chihuahua, and Sonora. I'm more referring to the ones built into the cliff surfaces rather than the above ground ones. This is a cool setting, and although we're leaving it soon, I would like some lore about it, and a timeline of the place. That kind of stuff in fantasy really interests me. Also, the blue glowing crystals in the middle of the city, that glow at night. I wonder if you can get some as a souvenir. I think it's funny whenever I see an anthropomorphized horse, I immediately think Bojack. It's also funny to think of these types of characters like Bojack, because any negative actions that the horse person commits, it seems that Bojack would also do those things. Also, the lawful stupid archetype. You see this a lot in Dungeons & Dragons with paladin-like characters, where they refuse to compromise their morals in the slightest way, or even refuse to do something a far easier way in lieu of wrecking the entire party's plans to uphold their oh-so-just morals. Generally by killing every goblin they see regardless of hostility. Like Zam. Killing a guy just like that, and then being like, "I'll kill the rest of you too!" Like, Ryuja quite literally stated that he would kill anyone in their way in the previous episode. I mean, killing everyone who you aren't fully aligned with morally isn't going to save the Spurge reputation. Like, they were doing a bad thing, so turn them into the proper authorities. But they didn't do that. They blackmailed him and then helping out in cheating the guild system. As well, we don't know what happened to those animals down there. We never hear about them again. So did they free them? Are they all just dead now? Well, let's hope for the best. So now onto the meat and potatoes of the video. This freaking Mickey Mouse Clubhouse plotline. A Spurd is a green-haired demon with a middle eye and are known to treasure their spears. They are known from every single continent as the near embodiment of evil. And yet, by the simple act of putting on a mineral hair dye found on the walls of the rocky surfaces near the city, which every local would recognize, he doesn't even get stopped by the guards. The guy before him did, even without looking like the most feared creatures in the land, and for this entire time until the Adventurers Guild scene, they don't show Ryuja's face. Like, bro, how many other demons are there with a middle eye? The only one we have ever seen up until now is Ryuja. By the gods, and the spear! He's carrying the sacred spear of the Spurds! I am feeling brain dead at the moment. And in the Adventurers Guild, they literally say that he is a Spurd. As well, they call him Dead End. Oh my god. Rudy's plot is to do it to make sure they don't believe him, but like, huh? Okay, think of it like this. You know Megamind from the movie Megamind, played by Will Ferrell? Imagine if he painted himself green, kept the same outfit, and still called himself Megamind. Then he walks into a police station calling himself Megamind, but he's green. Then the cops laugh him out of the station, saying how he can't be Megamind, because Megamind is blue. Jesus. Anyway, that's it for this section. Thank you for listening to my rant. Hope you enjoyed it. Episode 11 of Mushoku Tensei, Children and Warriors. We started with Roxy arriving at the ruins of Rudy's former home, looking at the board of deaths. Two members of Paul's party come up behind her. Apparently, everyone besides the baby Norn and Paul were swept up in the Manic Cataclysm. Paul is going to the Millis continent, trying to find Zenith, also asking others to help find his family. Rudy's and crew have a job to investigate and possibly slay a monster in the Petrified Woods, and Rigid's hair dye is still on. They come across two parties boofing it out, apparently all assigned to the same job by accident. Ryuja wants to help the children, but Rudius says to only help them if things get desperate. Suddenly, a big mouthy thing and a big snake come out of the blue, and Rudius says not to help them, so they're more appreciative. Then one of their group gets split in half, and they move into action. Rudius looks at half and half, while Ryuja grabs him and smacks him against a tree. Ryuja says that children can't be blamed, while also blaming Rudius, whom he sees as a child. Lawful stupid. This party ain't kids, they're adventurers, and they know the risks. Cry. The other party leaves with a snack for the road. Then, they see a big old red hood cobra snacking on the other party from before, and now Rudius wants to save them. Ryuja and Eris work in sync to defeat the monster, with Rudius' spells not seeming to affect it until it is weakened enough, when he gets the final killing blow. They were too late, though. Hey, Bojack Horseman. What is this? A crossover episode? He figured out that they were trading jobs and threatens to tell the guild. He wants a yowie yowie. Or money, I guess. Blackmail. Rudius stops thinking about it, and thus he casts a water spell that's probably cumulonimbus. A splash of water removes the hair dye from Ryujard, and everyone's super duper scared. He picks up Bojack by the throat, telling him to forget about them and mutilating his cheek. Ryujard jumps into the air. Gosh darn. They find Ryujard in a full sky of stars, and sharing caring hour starts. Sorry, Rudius. Sorry, Ryujard. Having something to protect makes you a warrior. I will restore my reputation, he says. The next day, they're back on the road, and Ryujard becomes bald. Also, to cover his third eye, Rudius gives him a headband. They agree to talk things over and work together as they travel to the Asura Kingdom. A fun traveling montage occurs, and Eris wears some pretty neat-looking armor. The episode ends as they make their way to the port city. Now, onto my thoughts on the matter. Pretty decent episode, but the criticisms of the last episode remain mostly the same. This time, rant first. The hair! So, the hair. Last episode, Rudy smeared some mineral dye on Ryujard's head to cover up his green hair. The signifier of this part. But, not the eye, though. I guess until the end of the episode. If you had the headband that entire time, why not just use it the first time? Why not just shave your hair beforehand? It feels like these scenes in anime where the main character just does something entirely basic and everyone acts like it's the best things in sliced bread. I mean, Ryujard is lawful stupid and Eris is, just special. Rudius is probably the closest thing to an intelligence in this party, at least in terms of scheming. And we saw how that turned out this episode. So, Bojack finds out about his scheme to cheat ahead in the Adventurers Guild, and tries to blackmail him. In this way, Rudius plans to escape the fate by using cumulonimbus. I assume, because he doesn't vocally cast it this time. And Last episode, Rudius was like, you can't kill people, even if they're evil. But now that someone is directly impacting his bottom line, he's more than willing to kill, potentially hundreds of people with this spell, as this town is in a quarry-type formation. It is nowhere to really drain. Jesus. We've seen men, women, and children doing their daily activities here, and these streets seem cramped and packed with people. This seems like a major upset with the previous characterization last episode, which is just And none of this wouldn't have happened if Rudius just worked his way up from the bottom. With their skills, it definitely wouldn't have taken them any time at all. But as Rudius says, his scheming destroyed a good thing that it could have thrived with. Also, Ryujard, my man, it seems like they're constantly saying every episode that this man is just trying to redeem the reputation of the Spurs. But so far he's killed a restrained person, engaged in illegal activities, and now threatened a whole bunch of people and mutilated some guy, even if he was blackmailing him. Actually, didn't the crew just blackmail the insect people last episode? They would switch tasks in exchange for not revealing their illegal dealings. By Jove. I liked Eris in the knife outfit. It fit her really well and thought it was cute and practical. Oh, I almost forgot. It seems like Roxy and some new companions will be attempting to find Rudius soon. I wonder how that'll go. Anyways, that's about all I have to say about this episode. Yeah. Episode 12 of Mushoku Tensei, The Woman with the Demon Eyes. We started this episode at the ocean, near the port town they reached last episode. Rudius is a kitty diddler again. No swimming, because the sea is teeming with monsters. Also, Roxy's headed this way. Exploring the port town, they find all sorts of goods and exotic foods. Roxy and crew arrive in the town. Rudius and crew get all sorts of nicknames. After consulting a dock worker, they find out the cost for passage back will be 200 green ore coins. No solution seems available, so they scout out their options. In the night, Rudius thinks about how he's gonna get out of this, and he meets the man god again. Rudius was supposed to turn in the villains and bond with Ryujard, but instead he chose to twist the situation to his advantage. More advice. Buy food from a street vendor and walk the back alleys. We got to Ryujard and Eris training, fast-paced and gooberous. Eris finally managed to land a hit. Rudius walks around being stalked by Roxy. He encounters a smelly and hungry little figure and gives her the food he bought. This spirited little gremlin reveals herself to be Kishirika Kishiriso, the great demon emperor of the demon world. He acts like a servant, like a Junie, and her eyes go wild. She gives him a wish, and he asks for wealth, then half of the world, then her body. He's more than willing to partake in this person he believes is a child. She rips one of his eyes out and replaces it with another. She thanks him and yumps off. The eye of foresight. It lets him see into the future a couple of seconds. Ryujard apparently knows of her, and Rudius gets used to the eye. He saves a man from the dangers of pot. In order to see further or shorter, he adjusts it using his mana. He cheats, disarms, and beats Eris. He tries to beat Ryujin, getting beat bad himself. Later, Rudius apologizes to Eris and thinks about how he was quelling Eris' skill and effort. He goes out at night to sell the staff, meaning to help pay for a way back. Rudius and Ryujin dialogue it out once more and talk about stuff seen as evil. Ryujin agrees to compromise his usually rigid sense of morality in order to get them to safety. The episode ends with the guy Rudius saved earlier coming up to them and introducing himself as Gallus Cleaner. Now, onto my thoughts on the matter. After Rudius being as close to a normal person as he's been in this chunk, it sucks that the story is immediately going back to "Preteens are so kawaii desu ne." The episodes without it felt much better. Anyways, it seems that Roxy's come into contact with the crew, and she's actively monitoring them from a distance. This episode did feel pretty fast. The newer Demon Lord, apparently, taking the place of Lapis. And as is always with anime, we got Delali. Slime Tensei had Milim, so I guess a bit of the trend. They introduced a new power here, and I agree with Rudius. It kinda sucks when someone who can get powers out of the blue beats someone who's been training their whole life. Gah. I realize that all the other sections have been really long, but I don't have a lot to say on this episode. Nice of him to think about selling the staff to pay for the voyage, and nice for Ryujin to finally move beyond lawful stupid in the name of taking them to safety. I'd assume Gallus Cleaner is going to smuggle them on his ship to wherever they want to go. I don't know how Roxy's gonna deal with that. Anyways, short segment on episode 12, but I'm genuinely brain dead. Yippee! So, that's this chunk of episodes done. Episodes 9 through 12. It took me a while to get this out, mostly because I got tired of editing. It took a 2-week break before I started the script for this. I do hope that it turns out better because of that break. I took one day to write each episode's recap plus review. That gave me some room to think about it and make the edits even after I finished the section. But let's talk about the chunk itself. This is a decent chunk, probably on the level of episodes 1 through 4. The reason for this title, The Hair of Destiny, is of course the mineral dye that Rudius puts in Ryujin's hair, which made me want to bash my head into a wall. Genuinely, there is something you would see in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse episode. Other than that, Rudius nearly killing hundreds of people to silence one person extremely dumb, and opposed to his episodes in the previous action in the previous episode, and again, dumb. Eris in the night outfit was my favorite part of this chunk. Yoop. Well, this has certainly been a chunk of Mushoku Tensei. Tori molds, seeds, copes, for real for real. Thanks for watching to the end of this video, I appreciate it. For the ranking, which I didn't do in the last video, the order probably goes chunk 1, chunk 3, then chunk 2. If you like this video, feel free to tell me. If you have cursed my soul, also feel free to share in the comments. Thank you all for coming, and I'll see you for the next chunk of Mushoku Tensei.